I've got to start with your reaction to Mike Cannon-Brookes.
Thank you, Peter.
And Brookfield potentially taking over AGL?
Well, we have to protect our system, Peter. We can't allow the lights to go off, and this proposal must go through the full rigour of an assessment of whether it's going to damage our electricity system. I mean, my concern here, Peter, is why would someone pay up to $20 billion to shut something down? Brookfield, hard-nosed business people, they obviously think by shutting down coal-fired power stations, power prices will go up because that's the way they'll make more money. That's why, presumably, they've put all of this on the table. Now, that might be a good deal for Canadian investors, but it'd be a bad deal for Australian families, a bad deal for Australian jobs. That's what we've got to protect. We've got to make sure this is in the national interest. I fail to see how it could be. And as we see tensions rising around the world, should we really be shutting down our power stations? That doesn't seem like a particularly smart idea to me.
No, I will ask you about those international affairs eventually too. So just getting back to that question that you posed there and the start of your response, will it damage electricity? Will it damage the electricity system here?
Well, I think it will. I mean, look, right now, as the sign on the TV behind me says, coal is powering over half of our electricity needs. There's no viable option to replace that overnight or when the wind doesn't blow. It's just not there. The technology's not there. And you can just see that in Europe. You can see in Europe, they've tried to go down this path, shut down their coal-fired power stations, shut down nuclear in some countries, and they're struggling to keep their lights on, and now they're in hock to Vladimir Putin to keep the gas pipelines going. So we cannot afford to do this right now.
On that question of viability, though, I mean, you've got Erring and the coal plant shutting down last week or announcing that it's going to shut down well in advance of what it wanted to. So the companies say that coal is no longer viable. So it's the other way around.
The problem is, Peter, we don't have a commercial market because state governments now in particular, some still residual federal subsidies as well at the household level. The subsidies mean that more and more solar goes into the system. That undermines the economics of power stations that run 24 hours a day like coal. And we have a perverted market. It's not really responsive to the underlying economics and engineering of these systems. It is completely distorted by the massive government subsidies that are going in this space. Governments are destroying our economic viability and our energy security. They need to get out of this space, need to get out of subsidising solar in particular, which makes no sense now to add more to the system. It only runs at one time of the day, and at that time of day now, the power prices are very, very low because there's too much power at that time of day. We need power. We need investment in power sources that run when the sun's not shining and the wind's not blowing, and obviously that's not solar or wind.
Just on these developments out of Russia overnight, Senator, are there opportunities for our gas markets here? If Russia is forced to stop sending it to Europe, are there opportunities for us to seize on this?
Look, I don't think there's much silver lining from what's going on in Eastern Europe right now. And certainly if the worst happens and war breaks out, that will be bad news for the entire world, including for our own country. Yes, we're an exporter of energy, and so the tensions we've seen in Eastern Europe has increased our export revenue, especially for gas in the last few months. But anyone who's filled up their car recently, it's also pretty tough for average families and households. And higher energy prices will be a bad thing for the world overall. It'll affect all sorts of economic activity, and it won't be offset by any increase in export revenues we receive. So this is very concerning for the world. It's a long way from us, of course, but the concern here is that the tensions here in Eastern Europe have come up so quickly, we shouldn't discount that something like that wouldn't happen in our region at some point. And that's why we've got to invest in our defence forces. It's why we've got to secure our energy security so we can defend ourselves and not rely on other countries.
OK, Matt Canavan, we're out of time, but thanks as always. We'll talk to you soon.